We've all played the 1.18 update. In fact, I've already made 2 videos on it. But I was wondering how we could actually make a more interesting base. I decided to go on an exploration project, and I came across this mineshaft, which in of itself isn't very interesting, but if you look at it a little differently, yeah, that's right, we're making this into a house. So the core things I want from the house. I'm going to want a storage room, because obviously I'd like to store things if I'm playing in a survival world. I'm going to want a smeltery, or a place for a furnace, because, you know, we're in a mine. We're probably going to go mining at some point. I'd like to actually use the resources. I also want it to actually look good. That's probably one I don't have to elaborate on very much. Anyway, I want to not use too much unique resources so that I can start the base soon. So I'm not going to use, like, anvils or something, because, you know, that's going to take, like, 10 years if I want a whole railway for them. So what's the best way to approach this house, you may be wondering? Well, we're going to be starting with the pillars, aka the beam stuff, whatever it's called. The framework. Yes, we're going to start the framework. Now, luckily, doing the framework's actually going to be surprisingly easy, because everything's already in place. So, you know, all we have to do is just make sure there's floors, make sure it actually connects up to each other, and we're practically done from there. Also, because it's already naturally generated, it ensures the base is, like, mostly original. So you probably won't see too much people with the house looking similar to this, considering, you know, it's naturally generated. I didn't make this framework, it just exists. Now you may be thinking, well the outline's in place, we should fill it in. Wrong! We're actually going to be starting with the roof framework instead of filling in the walls. Why? Well, starting with the roof first, it actually gives us an idea of what the house is going to look like as a whole. So we don't end up filling in random walls and then realizing, wait, I don't want that bit to be there, and then just wasting all our time breaking the wall again. Whereas if we built the roof first, all we need is the framework so we can actually see, yes, this is the house, this is what it's going to look like, and we don't have to waste time filling in unnecessary walls. So now that we've done that, we can actually start on the walls. Now, starting the walls in a base probably seems like the easiest part, considering, you know, you're just filling it in with like 1 or 2, 3 blocks. Personally, I'm going to consider it the hardest part of building the base. Because of how big our house is actually going to end up being, it's going to be very difficult to make this place actually look good when all the walls are just one flat surface. So we're going to have to, like, detail it. And I'm not sure how to do that without everything being all brown. And that's going to blend in with the dirt. Yeah, we're going to want to make sure we use, like, stuff like stone and flower pots and windows and stuff and bricks. Because that's actually going to contrast with the wall color instead of blend in with it. Using these things actually helps us, like, give more color to the base instead of having it all, like, one solid color with a framework and a roof. Because I mean, it works as a base, but it looks pretty boring, so we're gonna use details and stuff. If you're wondering how we're gonna use barrels in the base, there's actually this cool little trick that I learned working on our Undertale build, which is a completely separate series as a whole, where if you put slabs and then barrels pointing upwards behind it, you could actually get this really cool, like, I'm not sure what I'd call it, but it looks like a really cool effect, and it gives the base actual depth instead of, you know, blending in all flat and stuff. It makes it look cooler. I'm gonna boil it down, it just makes it look cool. Okay, now that we've actually done all these things, we get the joy of coming to the back of the base. Yeah, I may have glossed over this part. So for the back of the base, we're actually going to be doing something a little different from what I probably would do for any other house. Normally I'd just make some like huge large back so we have plenty of room on the inside. But I actually want to stick more to the style of the fact it's a mine shaft and like separated on different like levels and stuff. So I'm actually going to make the house at the front quite thin and have like bridges and stuff going to a different part of the house in that. Having like platforms where you can walk about and it's not all just inside a building. So not only does this make sure that it sticks to this style of a mine shaft, but it also makes the place like quite cool instead of like a basic house underground. It actually makes it a bit more interesting and unique. The detail in the walls and stuff is actually going to be pretty straightforward because I kind of suck at detailing, so I'm just going to stick with the previous style. Now, the base right now doesn't actually look that bad. We've got our details, we've got our door, and that we've got a house basically. But, you know, I haven't added moss all around this cave for no reason. You know, we've got to add some wow factor. Basically, I need a thumbnail. So down here, I actually had the idea of adding a pond. Ponds themselves aren't that complicated, but I actually am doing it so we have some colors that aren't green and brown in the build, and they actually contrast pretty well. So the blue is going to stand out pretty nicely between all the green, brown, and blue. No, wait. Gray. Yep, I know how to do this. We're also going to add some glowberries around the cave, so random lighting to make it feel more homely and less murdery. Oh yeah, I guess we also should like light up the base inside so we can actually see, you know, the house glowing instead of having this ominous building in the dark. So let's go back to our checklist, shall we? We wanted to have a storage room, which we do have. We've got the smeltery place, which actually details the outside as well as the inside, so that's a plus. And it had to look quite good. I think we've made it look quite good. I mean, personally, I like this house. I would live here, you know, if it wasn't for the fact it's underground, and I would probably suffocate because there's no air.